Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today, and welcome to the showcase for AlphaLab Health. My name's Andy Rape, and I'm the program manager here. We're so happy to have you with us, and for those of you watching online, we're happy you could join us. We have an exciting lineup of companies who are going to tell you all about their transformative technologies and how they are on track to quickly infiltrate their target markets. All of the startups are hoping to reach potential customers, investors, strategic partners, or other resources for their growing companies. We welcome everyone watching today to follow up with the companies to help them achieve their next level of growth. Before we get to the pitches, we want to thank all of the supporters and partners of AlphaLab Health. Without your efforts, all of the great progress you're about to see today from the cohort wouldn't be possible. To elaborate a little bit more on our partnerships, I'll turn it over to Rich Lunak, CEO of InnovationWorks.
Thanks, Sandy, and it's great to be back in person and in particular in this terrific physical space for the first time. I'm Rich Lunak, President and CEO with InnovationWorks. We're a venture development organization that provides capital, knowledge, and access to networks to help entrepreneurs reach the next stage of growth. In 2021 alone, we invested in 47 companies, and our portfolio went in to raise over $450 million in follow-on funding, creating hundreds of high-paying jobs here locally. Over the years, we've helped support some of the fastest growing tech companies in our region. And I think this new cohort of AlphaLab Health is a terrific addition to that. Together with AlphaLab Gear, and now AlphaLab Health, we have accelerators that support companies in the software, hardware, and life science domains, trying to surround them with the kinds of critical resources they need to get to the next stage of growth. We also have our very active seed fund and Riverfront Ventures, so we can help literally support ideas from concept through growth stages. The Pittsburgh region, as many of you know, is really growing quickly, and we feel really privileged to support so many terrific local entrepreneurs. You may have seen about 2 weeks ago, we launched a new investor report with Ernst & Young, and that report covered the last decade's worth of investment in our region with a total of nearly $3.6 billion in 2021 alone in an early stage venture investment. And that's up more than tenfold from where it was a decade earlier. So a lot of great signs here locally. And at IW, we're really proud to support that momentum, but also make sure that everybody in our community can actively participate in opportunities in tech and entrepreneurship. And through our On-Ramps to Entrepreneurship program, we're trying to provide better access to women, people of color, and people from all backgrounds in our community to participate in the tech sector. If you'd like to join into today's conversation online, please use the hashtag ALH Showcase. And I'd also like to emphasize before we kick things off that the updates here today are to provide updates on the business models, products, and traction with these companies, but is not intended in any way to be a general solicitation for the companies for the sale of securities. So please keep that in mind. I'd also like to thank the following organizations who, without their help, this event couldn't be possible. First off, the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development has supported InnovationWorks for nearly 40 years and would like to thank them for their support. The Pennsylvania Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program helped provide a grant to renovate the space, and we're particularly thankful to that program. The Suburban Hospital or Healthcare Foundation, I should say, supports AlphaLab Health and the Bellevue community and has been a terrific partner of ours. The R.K. Mellon Foundation, through General Operating Grant, supports InnovationWorks. And the U.S. Small Business Administration named AlphaLab Health one of the top growth accelerators in the United States in 2021 and is supporting our operations here. Lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the incredible team from Allegheny Health Network that we get to work with. And as a venture development organization, you're always looking for subject matter experts, and in the case of life science companies, people that have either the clinical or reimbursement expertise. And here we have a $26 billion diversified healthcare services, organization helping to work with so many of these companies, and it's really invaluable. And I'd like to thank in particular Jeff Cohen, Keith Lejeune, Stephen Hunter, Austin Price, and the rest of their team. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Megan Shaw, Maria Garrity, Andy Rape, Jordan Marikovich, Terry Glick, and Jane Joseph, who helped pull this event together today. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things back to Andy, and we'll get started here in a few minutes for you to meet the companies.
Well, thank you very much for that, Rich. As you mentioned, we are partnered with Allegheny Health Network, and we are very fortunate to have such a dynamic partner in this venture. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Jeff Kellen to tell you a little bit more about Allegheny Health Network, the Chief Physician Executive, Community Development and Innovation at Allegheny Health Network.
Thank you, Andy. This is indeed a special day for us. You're sitting in a former ICU of a hospital that was closed that we finished renovating about 2 months ago. And this was part of an idea that we had of how do you repurpose hospitals? But I'm not going to go much further than that, because the star today are the 6 companies that you're going to hear from. Each of these companies was selected in our second cohort because they'll have an impact on healthcare. And we firmly believe that innovation has to come from outside of the healthcare arena. And indeed, these companies represent great ideas across the board to impact on not just the health of this region, but much further than that. So you'll hear from them. They have great ideas. Their energy and their drive to accomplish a goal has been inspiring to all of us. And they're very much like the first cohort, which is doing great things. The other part of this is that the creation of this idea is part of a bigger program of how do you renovate closed hospitals and what do you do with facilities that are no longer used clinically. And the imagination that went into this to be able to take what was an ICU and that some of us practiced in a long time ago and convert these into useful facilities in communities that have become distressed because of economic downturns is a great idea. We have people that are joining us online. There's people here in the audience that can see this. And when you see the 3-dimensional possibilities of creating jobs, and one of our other factors we're doing here is dealing with social determinants, and the director for that, Neb Abeyu, is in the back. The combination of these two to change the directions of impacted communities and communities impacted by economic downturn is the mission for Highmark and AHN. So one of the things, and Teresa Whalen is in the office, she was our first company that we kept here. We told her there were 3 things that we could provide her with, and we just had an idea. And one of the things was the relationship between Allegheny Health Network and the voice of the customer or expertise and the companies that we chose to bring in. So as you see the 6 companies, 4 of them have had a lot of participation with members of the AHN staff, and I just want to mention them and thank them. So for Spoken, it was Justin Emmerich and John Hackle. They actually used his product, and they convinced us that this has a shot and this has a great opportunity to impact people that are aphasic. For Telling, my friend and colleague, Dr. Anil Singh, he's been working with Telling for quite a while. For Mindtrace, Dr. Alexander Yu from Neurosurgery has provided clinical guidance and the voice of the customer to the Mindtrace group. And for Parcel, the director of pharmacy for Highmark and AHN, Laura Mark and Arpit Mehta. And I think you'll find that her product and her idea is inspiring. So I'll sum up what I was told to keep this brief, and I will. A couple other thank yous, and mostly to A gentleman who's going to be stepping down from his post, who just spoke before me, is Rich Lunak, and he's been a great partner for us to work in. He's forgotten more about running an incubator than we'll ever know. Your demeanor and your calmness through many of the crises that we've been through, we're going to miss. And thank you for all you've done to help us get this started. Another shout out to Allie Quick. Where are you, Allie? Allie is the Director of Philanthropy for Highmark and AHN. And once again, without her guidance, where you're standing right now probably would not have happened. So with that, I'm going to stop. Rich mentioned the teams that are involved. These are the folks that do it every day. But the real stars today are the 6 companies that are going to present to you. So with that, thank you for coming. Thank you online. Any questions, we're happy to take it.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. I'd next like to introduce Megan Shaw, Managing Director of Life Sciences at Innovation Works.
Thank you, Andy. It's so great to welcome you all here today in person and online. As Dr. Cohen noted, AlphaLab Health is really more than the sum of its parts. It brings together the strengths of Innovation Works and Allegheny Health Network, so startups can gain from the advantages that each organization brings to the table. At AlphaLab Health, we invest in and mentor each company while providing custom programming designed for early stage healthcare startups. Through the program, we provide access to clinical decision makers, investors, and strategic and economic perspectives from both the provider and payer sides. The companies presenting today represent the spectrum of healthcare, from sustainable pill packaging to a company that's really pushing the boundaries of brain mapping. We also have entrepreneurs here that range from those working on their very first venture to people who've built and sold companies previously. This has been a really great cohort. The teams you'll see here today have taken full advantage of this opportunity. They've immersed themselves in the programming, they've leveraged the connections and peer group that we've put together, and they've charted a clear trajectory to pursue rapid growth. Today, we invite you to listen, to learn, and to help these companies reach their goals by engaging as a potential customer, an investor, or a resource. Now, before we start the presentations, I want to mention that applications for the next cycle of AlphaLab Health will be open in June. So please make sure to go to our website, alphalabhealth.org, and get on our mailing list so you can be notified when that opens up. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, Rich, Dr. Cohen. But without any further ado, it's time to move on to the actual stars of the show. And with that being said, I'd like to welcome Tamar from Naima Health.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to be like a deer in the headlights for a second. This is the first time I've spoken to humans in a room where they were actually present in 2 years. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to Naima Health and to our company's flagship product, the My Healthy Pregnancy platform. So My Healthy Pregnancy was built to perform more timely risk identification and intervention during pregnancy than routine prenatal care would allow for. And it consists of a mobile health app that patients can use, and then also a healthcare provider alert system that's embedded in Epic in the patient's chart. So you may have heard that our maternal health statistics in the United States are just absolutely abysmal. So more moms die now from pregnancy-related complications than they did when my Victorian era grandmother was born, than when she was giving birth to my mother during World War II. And that's pretty shocking. You know, those same pregnancy complications that kill moms today also result in sickness and death for infants. But with better pregnancy risk identification, many of these pregnancy risk factors can be addressed and can be modified. And we can begin to cut some of the US obstetric care costs that are among some of the most expensive in the world. So there are significant disparities in adverse pregnancy outcomes among populations that have been historically denied equitable access to resources and to high quality healthcare. And I really wanted to point this out as part of this presentation because it's absolutely critical that my solution, anyone's solution to address pregnancy risk, is mindful of the needs of moms of color and is mindful and addresses the social determinants of health. So knowing exactly who will develop a high-risk pregnancy has traditionally been hard to predict. There are many potential indicators of risk. These often go undetected because they're either not part of routine workflow in obstetric care, or they occur among patients that may not be fully engaged in the healthcare system. Okay, so our solution to this very multifaceted problem is My Healthy Pregnancy. So what you can see on the left is the patient-facing app. So that's prescribed by a doctor to a pregnant patient when they come in and their pregnancy is confirmed. They enter in information routinely to that app that enables us on the back end to use machine learning models to model their likelihood of developing a set of specific pregnancy risks. And then we also can offer tailored feedback to them, connection to resources that we've vetted that are both in their community and within the healthcare system. And then it also allows us to send to what you see on the right, which is the physician portal that's integrated into a patient's chart in Epic. So it allows us to send in real time any risk factors that we identify in the app, as well as clinical recommendations for care for that patient. So I want to quickly walk you through a case study of how My Healthy Pregnancy actually works with just one risk factor. We chose intimate partner violence to illustrate to you because homicide by a domestic partner is the leading cause of maternal death in the US right now. If it's detected early, it can be addressed, but it's a really difficult risk factor to identify in prenatal care. It's often not part of the workflow. And even when it is, it can be very hard for a physician to ask about. It can be very hard for a patient to disclose, especially if they have a partner in the room with them. So what My Healthy Pregnancy does is we've developed highly predictive models to predict intimate partner violence experience. That allows us to ask patients who are using our app indirect questions, but also assess their risk of domestic violence through their answers to those questions throughout pregnancy. We also offer opportunities for sharing, for completing diagnostic screening, and then universal education and resources for all the patients that use the tool. When people report intimate partner violence to us through the app, we're able to connect them with a remote clinical care team that can offer them supports. In a recent publication of the data that we collected in a beta test of our product, we found that 100% of the cases of intimate partner violence reported to us through the app had not been detected in routine prenatal care and had not even been detected at ER visits for injuries. So the beta test I just mentioned was completed in the UPMC healthcare system with over 7,000 patients. We find high levels of engagement, with the greatest engagement among our most at-risk patient populations. We've successfully identified and offered treatment for modifiable risk factors that are leading causes of pregnancy complications, including depression and preeclampsia. So My Healthy Pregnancy is the only solely software-based mobile-first solution that excels in risk identification and health system integration in a way that's focused on social and behavioral determinants of health, addresses a diversity of patient needs, and improves accessibility to care. Our IP is extendable beyond pregnancy, both into the postpartum space and to other chronic health conditions. We're seeking right now seed funding to scale to other healthcare systems and to extend our IP to move from predictive screening to predictive diagnostics. As well as being parents, our co-founding team, sorry about that. As well as being parents, our co-founding team has expertise in behavioral science, that's me, machine learning, and maternal fetal medicine. And we have a small but mighty team that helps us execute our vision. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamar. I'd next like to welcome Josh from Hale Therapeutics.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Israel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hale Therapeutics, and we are on a mission to end nicotine addiction. This isn't just a personal problem for us. Nicotine addiction is directly responsible for the deaths of over 8 million people every single year. Billions are spent in an effort to quit. However, current cessation solutions are largely ineffective. This is due to a few factors: lack of appropriate physiological satiation, ineffective delivery methods, or simply because the solution is not a true de-addiction tool. And that's where we come in. We're building a connected medical vaporizer that pairs with the smartphone app to automatically and gradually wean people off nicotine addiction through minimal effort on their part. We do this through our patent pending dual capsule, dual coil design, where one of our capsules contains nicotine and the other contains a drug-free formulation. As we control the time and temperature on the nicotine side, we do so at an inverse relationship to the drug-free side. What that does is provide a consistent smoke experience to end users as we automatically regress their nicotine intake. We're essentially combining the best of digressive nicotine dosing with technology that doesn't stop with our delivery system. Our mobile app rounds out what we're calling our full stack quitting experience. Smoking is not just a physiological burden, but a psychological one as well. And bringing in digital support will help increase our cessation success rates and disrupt the current incumbents in the space. Brands like Nicorette, Nicoderm, and Chantix. The reason these products have such low success rates is they don't hit on some of the most important variables when it comes to quitting smoking: nicotine delivery and self-control. They put the onus on the user to manually dose themselves down and don't deliver nicotine as rapidly as a cigarette. Vaping has been introduced as a healthier alternative, but studies have shown its increased levels of addiction to nicotine, and now over 60% of vapers are looking to quit completely. So we're going to be the ideal choice for them and combustible cigarette smokers as we hit on both the physiological and psychological burdens related to smoking. We deliver nicotine rapidly, and we reduce the dose automatically and so gradually that they're not even going to feel that it's happening. This is compared to popular NRTs like Nicoderm, which drop dosage dramatically from one day to the next and abandon the user while they're still addicted. We stay with our users till cessation, and every day we help them avoid withdrawal symptoms by very incrementally reducing their dosage. So with Hale, there's no more gums, no more patches, no more pills. Just smoke however and whenever you want, and let us handle the rest, and do it at a price that's better than the competition. We anticipate charging around $50 for our device, in addition to a monthly subscription that can range anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on the type of smoker you are. We anticipate smokers staying with us for 12 months, 6 months on our cessation plan and 6 months on our clean program, yielding a profit of around $300 per customer. And with around 33 million target customers in the US and UK alone, we have a clear path to a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity. And the macro market trends are backing up our numbers. The global nicotine replacement therapy market set to hit $160 billion by 2028, with the majority of solutions people turning to being electronic nicotine delivery systems. And while we can't beta test our product right now, given the regulatory requirements, we did question hundreds of smokers looking to quit. 90% stated that they would try an FDA-approved e-cigarette to help them do so, with 98% commenting that it would appeal to them if that e-cigarette automatically reduced the dose for them. So it's clear there's an opportunity for us. So as long as we take the right regulatory approach, which is through medicinal pathways at both the FDA and the MHRA, where we'll be seeking approval in the UK and US in parallel. UK regulatory winds have shifted in our favor, and we believe we can get to market there in a rapid fashion and use the data that we collect there to accelerate our approval in the United States. We started this company about 3 years ago. We closed a $2 million pre-seed round to get it off the ground. And since then, we've built out the hardware and software. We filed multiple patents. We've met with both the MHRA and the FDA multiple times in regards to our regulatory path to market. And we run a number of preclinical tests that have de-risked our upcoming regulatory submissions. This has put us in a strong position to close our $4 million seed round, which is going to enable us to submit our CTA and IND in the US, run our phase 1 clinical studies to get safety and efficacy data, and put us in a strong position to raise a large Series A to get to commercialization. We've done all this with a strong team, starting with co-founders Devin and myself, who previously built, scaled, and exited the company. We're backed by mechanical engineers, lifelong product designers, inhalation toxicologists, and medical device experts. The advisory board supporting us is made up of ex-FDA members, tobacco dependence researchers from the Moffitt Cancer Center, and operators who have taken vaping companies public. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe we have been given a gift in the form of vaporization technology, but to date, it's been abused by greedy corporations looking to sell addiction as a business model. It's time we take that technology to help people live a healthier lifestyle instead of furthering a deadly addiction. That is our mission at Hale.
Hi, I'm Jim Jen. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at InnovationWorks. As the founding managing director for AlphaLab, I know the importance of the alumni community and the alumni companies that go through the program and the role they play in continuing to build the overall community. The alumni, they come back, they share their experiences with the newest companies in the cohort, and they inspire all of us as we continue to follow their growth and success. So today we're very excited that we've invited two of our alumni companies from the first cohort of AlphaLab Health to update you on their successes and their growth and to continue to inspire us. So next I'd like to introduce Will Kegler, CEO of SovaSage.
Thank you, Jim. As many of you who know me know, I can have a hard time saying hello in 3 minutes, and that's what they've given us. So I'm going to try to do this quickly and tell you a little bit about SovaSage. SovaSage is a software product disrupting the sleep apnea care model. I have been in this industry for 32 years, and this industry is flat out broken. We're reinventing it through technology using artificial intelligence and computer vision, which I incubated as a member of the faculty at Carnegie Mellon. So let me tell you a little bit about the product. Our product uses computer vision and artificial intelligence to automate the process used to select and fit the optimal mask for CPAP therapy, which is the primary therapy, the most common therapy for treating the disorder called obstructive sleep apnea, which, by the way, I have as well. There's two portions to the product. There's the mobile side, which the patient uses, which is a mobile app that they use to interact with the clinician and take a photo, which maps the patient's face and selects the optimal CPAP mask for their therapy. And then there's the clinician side, which is used for them to select and make all of the recommendations and push content to the patient that will be used to optimize their therapy going forward after in-service. Phase one, which is what we were involved with when we were in the first cohort with this organization, was all focused on de-risking the venture. And the highest risk, most laborious part of treating an obstructive sleep apnea patient is the in-service. Historically, it's very labor intensive. It's riddled with bias throughout, and it's not very effective. 1 out of 4 patients who receive a CPAP mask in today's world before our product fail on the first CPAP mask. 40% of patients that go on CPAP therapy quit the therapy within the first year. So we set out to prove that we could do what a clinician did at least as well. And fortunately, we did it better. So we have 30,000 patients plus on the product. We actually add at least 1,000 patients every week today. And we monitor a key performance parameter, which is mask failure rate. I mentioned earlier 1 out of 4 failed. Our customers all have failure rates below 5%. So we're getting great results. And we have close to 30 customers today. Here's some of the customers that use our product. We acquired some of these while we were a member of the cohort and have continued in the last year to add. We're very proud of this customer base, including AlphaLab Health, which is the largest home care company in the United States, and AHN, by the way, as well. We are now entering phase 2 of our development, which is where it gets really exciting. So we are building an end-to-end virtualized care model that will automate the entire process of managing obstructive sleep apnea. Now that we've taken the highest risk element out and proven that we can do better than a therapist, we're adding screening, diagnosis, treatment we already do, monitoring, as well as education and ongoing optimization so that we can manage a patient 100% virtually with this disorder and do it better than is currently done in the process. And by the way, at a much more profitable level. We're working with UPMC, sorry, who is a partner of ours and is participating in the development of this full stack solution. They're providing clinical content. They're providing development resources. They're also leading our A round, which we're closing next week. And they're also a pilot customer for us. So they're going to be a pilot customer for our product as an employer in the state of Pennsylvania. and also as a clinical care customer as well. And so we're very excited about that relationship. I added this QR code here to the left. Any of you who have obstructive sleep apnea and perhaps are on PAP therapy, feel free to scan that QR code and we'll give you a free mask fitting, tell you the perfect mask for you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Such impressive growth in such a short amount of time. We'll now return to the pitches from the current cohort. Next up is Max from Mindtrace.
Thanks, Andy. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Max Sims. I'm joined today by my co-founders, Brad Mahone and Hugo Angelo. And together, we're really on a mission to protect the minds of neurosurgery patients because unfortunately, 4 in 5 neurosurgical patients will self-report a cognitive deficit after a focal brain injury. And for us, that has been the main motivating factor as to why we're developing the next generation of neurosurgical planning software tools that can help 500,000 focal brain injury patients each year in the US. And by focal brain injury, I'm really talking about refractory epilepsy, brain tumor, and even stroke. And so really we've set out to help patients here like Dan, the musician, who was unfortunately diagnosed with a brain tumor. And for patients like Dan, this is an incredibly scary time in their life because they want to make sure they're going to be the same person, right? Keyword person coming out of surgery that they were going in. And so a lot of time, energy, and effort is spent into understanding where does cognition live anatomically inside of Dan's brain. And so you've seen a lot of imaging, they do behavioral testing. And again, it's all to support the clinical team's understanding of what is the best route to get to that damaged brain tissue versus potentially damaging healthy brain tissue that could lead to cognitive deficits like being unable to walk or talk, or in Dan's case, play music. And so it's not enough to just understand how Dan's musical abilities are doing, but it's important to understand where those are anatomically represented in his actual brain anatomy. So our team has an academic background. We've got 8 publications in this space. We spun out of Carnegie Mellon University. And that's really allowed us to go and do nationwide customer and user discovery with 25 different neurosurgical departments where we really understand what are the pain points, where are the gaps right now in managing these very complex epilepsy, tumor, and even stroke cases. And coming out of that experience, we really identified 3 key areas where Mindtrace can really move the needle quite literally. The first is they collect a lot of information on these patients, both neuroimaging, behavioral information, but it lives in very siloed places within a hospital system. The second is under surgical planning. Believe it or not, this is how surgical planning is done in the context of refractory epilepsy. Right, they're using 2D screenshots. And so there's no way right now to fuse all of this very complex multimodal neuroimaging data into one 3D representation of that patient's brain. I will preface, I know we're at a healthcare setting, so I think everyone will be okay with this. I'm going to show a brain picture here from the surgery room, okay? And the third area that we've identified is that right now there's no way for these surgical teams to understand what is the cognitive implication of removing a piece of brain. Okay, and so taken together, right, all of this is trying to make sure that people like Dan or ourselves can be the best quality of life after surgery that they were prior to surgery. And so Mindtrace is really filling this need for software tools that bridge anatomy and cognition at the point of care in real time. And so our team is really trying to take what we did in the lab and take it into people's lives at scale. And then we're doing that by building a SaaS platform. And the first module is really meant to collect all this information that's being generated as part of standard of care. That allows us to then fuse that into a 3D specific image of that person's individual brain anatomy. And if you can take data and you can fuse data, that's what allows our software system to use AI and machine learning to allow clinical teams to simulate resection plans prior to surgery or in real time during surgery and provide a prediction as to that patient's expected cognitive outcome. So here is an early version of our software, modules 1 and 2 actually in use. This was a case that one of our publications here. And you can see by looking at the surface of the brain, right, there's no way to identify where certain functions live in the brain. So the analogy we like to make, right, is that these neurosurgical teams, it's much like me asking you to go from Pittsburgh to Cleveland using a map without any, identifiers. And what the last 10 years of neurosurgery has done, and that's your Stryker, your brain labs for Medtronics, is to develop neuronavigation systems that allow teams to understand the different roads that they could take to get to that tumor. And where MindTrace differentiates itself is by being able to show the implications of taking these different routes with respect to patient outcome. So put simply, why are some routes better for certain patients than others? Where would you have an accident before the accident ever occurs? And again, all to ensure patients don't take a hit to an important cognitive domain after surgery. So major milestones to date. Happy to report we've done our tech transfer agreement with CMU. We've got an independent IRB that's going through hospital systems currently. We had our FDA meeting 2 weeks ago and gained a lot of clarity regarding our regulatory path forward, which I think was one of the most important things that AlphaLab Health has helped us de-risk here over the last couple of months. And we've also got PIs lined up. These are chairs and chiefs of neurosurgery at these 5 hospitals. And we're very excited and fortunate to have a lot of groundswelling of support for this kind of tool. So right now we'll hear back about our NSF phase 1. We've gotten early indications, knock on wood. It's not funded yet, but it's definitely trending in that direction. We'll find that out next month. We're going to be putting in a breakthrough device designation application with FDA as a concrete next step coming out of that QSub meeting. We're launching our pre-seed round here in large part because we are going to be deploying early versions of our MVP with 5 to 7 of these high volume epilepsy and tumor centers, and want to make sure that we have a team in place to be very responsive to our clinician partners as we continue to build traction. So our team, very happy that we've all known each other for at least 4 years at this point. And Dr. Mahone, he's tenured faculty at CMU. He's got over 75 publications just in this space alone. He will be going on sabbatical to be joining us at MindTrace really full-time coming in this summer. Hugo is our CTO. He's a CMU graduate himself and is really leading our technical development. And many of you have seen this presentation before. I've heard me say it takes a village to build a company, and it takes many villages to build a healthcare company. And we're very fortunate that we've gotten a lot of help from many of the people in this room as we continue to de-risk key aspects of MindTrace's trajectory. So I'll end with this. Dan was a real patient who came through an early version of our MVP. And they asked him to play his saxophone at the end of his resection to make sure that his musical ability was still intact. And our software was facilitating the mapping of Dan's brain all the way through pre-op, intra-op, and even following him post-operatively. So he did. He plays a beautiful Korean folk song here. And I understand that this is an extreme example, right? Not everyone plays music, and we get that. But we do think it speaks to the level of personalized and precision medicine that every focal brain injury patient deserves. And that's why we've decided to dedicate likely the next 10 years of our life to making this a reality. So with that, thank you so much for your time and looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you, Max. Next up is Melinda from Parcel Health.
Hi, everyone. I don't know why they allow me to be here among such amazing founders, but I am here, so I will tell you our story. My name is Melinda. I'm one of the co-founders of Parcel Health, and I'm joined by my very amazing co-founder, Mallory. So we get started. In the last 30 days, 45% of Americans have come into contact with this orange pill bottle from getting a prescription medication. That equates to about 8 billion of these plastic bottles every single year, just from Americans filling their medications. And for some context, that's more than 500 Boeing 747 planes in weight, just from these guys every year. It's a lot of plastic waste. So with this much plastic waste, it's worth to kind of just take a step back. Is it that useful to be generating this much plastic waste? And in my time as a pharmacy student and also a pharmacist, I've only ever seen patients struggle with it or avoid it entirely. These bottles are very hard to open, they're very hard to read, they're very hard to use. And over time, it compounds to this sentiment that this is an orange beacon of sickness, of failure, and aging. But in truth, it really is a relic of the past. This is a poor imitation of the glass prescription bottles used in the 1800s by apothecaries. But in this current iteration, the functionality is poor and it's extremely wasteful. And there's simply not another category of consumer products that is more poorly packaged than life-saving medication today. So in 2019, I met my co-founder, Mallory. She's an industrial designer, and myself, a pharmacist. We both take medications, we both have chronic illnesses. And so we came together and we said, we can build something better. So with our shared passions and training, we set out to build something that we believe could be, a product that is firmly rooted in the foundation of sustainability, but have pillars of patient-centered design and accessibility. So after more than 27 prototypes, we came up with the Fillbox. The Fillbox is a fully recyclable and compostable medication packaging. It has a novel child-resistant mechanism that keeps kids away, but it's still easy for the elderly to open. It's water resistant, it's opaque, and it has a flat and smooth surface for easy medication directions. It's a little video. This is a really simple solution that can set a global standard for prescription packaging. But we don't see this as just being employed in community pharmacies. We also see this as being available over the counter. So to package your Tylenols, to package your Claritins, to really also move the over-the-counter medication packaging space towards something more sustainable and patient-centric. We've not been the only ones excited by this. Over the past couple of months, being part of this accelerator, we've gotten a lot of interest from pharmacies around the country. We started with our first pilot right here in Pittsburgh at a pharmacy down in Westview. And that pilot alone led us to 10 additional pharmacies in 9 states now carrying the Fillbox. So these are now states that if you live in them, you can get a Fillbox. Here are some quotes from some of the pharmacies that have used our product. So one of the large chain pharmacy executives we've spoken to called this a tectonic shift in how medications are packaged. This was an executive who have been looking for an alternative solution to these orange pill bottles in the last 10 years and said, nothing has come close to what we've created. And last week, we got an email from one of our partner pharmacies, Oakwood Apothecary, and she said, she dispensed it to their first patient, and the patient was so excited to receive this product. And think about that. Somebody was at the pharmacy and received a product and was excited when they left, and it wasn't Viagra. With that said, Viagra is a very important medication also for pulmonary hypertension. So I'm not dumping on it. And Blueberry Pharmacy, our earliest partner, said, the moment he saw it, he recognized it as a fantastic product leading the industry towards a greener future. This is just the beginning for us. Our goal is to really bring this to all patients. We want the Fillbox to be available within 10 miles of every patient. And by replacing all 8 billion of these every year, we will be offsetting 88 million kilograms of carbon emissions per year. That's a 30% reduction just from switching from this orange pill bottle to this white pill bottle. And we want to set the new global standard for patient prescription packaging and allow this little orange pill bottle to retire into science museums to sit next to the glass prescription bottles of yesteryears. We've been on this mission to create something that was sustainable, that everybody in here could use as they age, that would be healthy for the environment and easy for the patient to use. But don't just take our word for it. I hope you'll come try a Fillbox. We have a station set up in our lab back there where you can fill it up with candy and bring it home with you. And if you like it as much as we do, we hope you'll be willing to participate in our next fundraising round, or at the very least, talk to your pharmacist about the Fillbox. Thank you all so much for your time.
I'm pleased to introduce our next alumni update from the last cohort of AlphaLab Health. I'd like to introduce Teresa Whalen, CEO of CytoAgents.
Press down. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. As mentioned, I'm Teresa Whalen, the CEO of CytoAgents. Yes. CytoAgents is a clinical stage drug development company. We are going into phase 2 clinical trials in the fall, and we're treating what's known as cytokine release syndrome. That became very popular in the mainstream media after COVID. commonly called cytokine storm. And what this is an overreaction of your immune system. And there's many triggers that trigger this in our immune system. COVID was one of the prime examples of that. That is really what has landed so many people in the ICUs with respiratory distress. But and cytokine release syndrome can happen with any virus. We don't care what strain it is, what mutate it is. We treat the side effect of the virus, cytokine release syndrome. But there's a lot of other indications as well. Traumatic brain injury results in this. A lot of autoimmune illnesses result in this, like lupus. But our first area of focus is in the area of oncology. Our mission is to get to the market as quickly as possible so that we can expand out our pipeline of indications. And we know that the fastest way to this market is through oncology. And our first area of focus is CAR T cell therapy induced cytokine release syndrome. And with that, that's really where we left off last year. As we graduated through the first cohort, we had just finished our phase 1 clinical trial with no clinically significant side effects. And so that's where I wanted to pick up with you as we really share with you our momentum going into the clinic. So immediately after we graduated from the cohort, we raised a Series A last summer. We oversubscribed that, more than $8 million. And with that, again, we are deploying that Series A to maximize value. And the way you do that with the drug development company is by reaching R&D goals throughout the clinic. And so to orient you to our timeline, across the top are the quarters. The first row is our oncology program. And as you can see, we're systematically just checking off every single study that we need to complete with the end goal of getting our IND and our letter may proceed into the phase 2 trial with FDA later this summer. We also have very significant activities going on foundationally that will serve all of our indications. We signed a licensing data, which is about a 3-year, $8 million, $10 million shortcut to approval. FDA has agreed that we can use 20 years worth of safety data, and that is going to be an incredible foundation to get us to the market as quickly as possible. So we also have multiple other indications running in the background in our infectious disease indications, as well as atopic dermatitis. And now we're in a position where we're starting to look to our Series B fundraising. And so we need to run this activity in parallel. We need to keep generating data. That's what generates value. And we need to finish our last non-clinical study. We're moving from a liquid to a tablet, and we're going to be ready to recruit patients by September. So with all the data and all the studies that we talked about before, that's going to allow us to create our Series B by the end of the year, raise our Series B by the end of the year, and we're doing that in parallel as well. So we have work streams for funding with strategic pharmaceutical companies, as well as traditional and institutional VCs, and that syndicate will come together by the end of the year, and we'll go right into phase 2 trials. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Teresa. We're going to move back to the final 2 exciting presentations from the current cohort. So please give a warm welcome to Michael from Spokane.
A few years ago, my grandmother suffered a stroke. She woke up in a hospital bed, her mind intact, but completely unable to speak. When the nurses came, they gave her what we've been giving people for 50 years, a sheet of paper with symbols on it for food, toilet, pain. She was the same woman she'd been that morning, educated and opinionated, but now her entire world had collapsed down to a single sheet of paper. While we sat in the waiting room, everyone agreed that the next step was clear. She loved her iPad, so we just needed to find an app to help her communicate. What we found instead were terrible. amateur efforts with unusable interfaces, non-English options were even worse. Instead of taking advantage of new technology, they were simply digital versions of that same piece of paper. As treatment improves worldwide, we're creating millions of stroke survivors like my grandmother every year. And that's only a small part of the larger market. Aphasia, Parkinson's, ALS, nearly 1 in 10 people will need help communicating in their lifetime, and they'll be looking to their mobile devices for help. You see, speech disorders can give you a tip of the tongue feeling, like a severe stutter. The next word is in your head, it's obvious, but you just can't get it out. Spoken started with an idea that you could predict that next word by taking the same algorithms that power your phone's autocomplete and applying them to much, much bigger data. Even better, our system could listen to conversations and know what was happening, giving suggestions that fit the context, improved with time. This radically different approach could be applied to nearly any language in the world. Well, I'm excited to tell you today that it worked. We built that system, we put it in front of users, and they love it. They went from food and toilet to real sentences with full vocabularies about feelings, hopes, and memories. They love that it remembers names and learns from how they talk. We were aiming to beat those other apps, but what surprised us is that it outperformed systems costing thousands. Intel spent 2 years and millions of dollars building a custom prediction engine for Stephen Hawking before he died, and they released the specs. You can do the comparison. Ours is better, and it runs on your iPad. In a few short years, we've taken this technology from non-existent to unaffordable to free in everyone's pocket. We brought it straight to consumers to get immediate feedback, improving and adding features along the way. Best of all, we were able to let new markets find us. It's been great to see folks that we never even considered, like nonverbal autism, come to the app in droves. This combination of listening to users and expanding our possible market has given us 10x organic growth in the last year. It's all thanks to a team that blends academic knowledge with real experience. Most of them are in the back there today, and they're more than willing to talk about machine learning, accessible design, or their dogs. We've already been awarded a patent for our approach, and our neural networks continue to push the limits of natural language processing. I've spent nearly 2 decades in design and tech and have launched apps for 3 different startups, but nothing has me more excited about the progress we've made here. We've had over 60,000 users download the app, which is free to use. And many of them have already subscribed to our premium features for $13 a month. At that price, each percentage point of the US market will bring in over $1 million in recurring revenue. Our average user is worth more than $500. That's more than 100 times the value that other mobile apps bring in, but still a fraction of the current healthcare costs. As it stands, alternative and augmentative communication is a $300 million market that barely serves 1/10 of its potential customers. High costs, lack of support, and bad product fit exacerbate this gap between need and use. And it's not surprising. It's an industry built on hardware whose incumbents struggle as it shifts to a software model. We're uniquely positioned to take advantage of 3 converging trends: ubiquitous mobile hardware, increased computing power, and deep learning powered speech synthesis. This is the combination that's going to allow us to unlock the other 90% of that market. And that's why we're here today, looking for partnerships and opportunities to expand. We started out trying to solve the most pressing problem of a single person, armed with a curiosity about the technology needed to make it happen. And while our first beta tester has since left us, we're building a legacy that's grown from dozens to hundreds and now thousands of people helped. But we're not done yet. In fact, we're just getting started and are going to need all the help we can get, from partners who have the expertise and reach to help us grow globally, so that we can help the millions worldwide, just like my family, that are waiting for that next step, waiting for somebody they love to be able to say,
I can speak again.
Let's make that happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Our final pitch will be from Raj, the CEO of Telling.ai.
Oh, okay, great. This is also my first appearance publicly in 2+ years speaking to live people, so you'll have to bear with me. Hi, I'm Raj Dhaka, co-founder and CEO of Telling.ai. The voice is a window into the mind and body, and it provides insights into a speaker's physiology. And what we do is we apply AI to teach machines to listen like a doctor. So our vision is for the first time to give lung disease patients and their care providers access to objective gold standard lung health measurements outside of the clinic. By listening to their voice and through their own smartphones, we will empower patients and their providers to take control of their health and avoid unneeded hospitalizations. Today, patients rely on their own subjective evaluation of their lung health to gauge how they're doing. This means they are flying blind once they leave a clinic to understand important changes in their lung health, which makes it hard for them to effectively control their lung diseases. Lung diseases are a huge problem in the United States and globally. The spending reaches over $150 billion in direct costs and is a leading cause of hospitalization and absenteeism. They are also the most impactful diseases on quality of life. If you can't breathe, you can't live your life and do everyday activities that we all take for granted. A lung attack or a respiratory exacerbation occurs when triggers like infections, pollen, or air pollution worsen your respiratory symptoms, something we've all experienced. The result is people with chronic lung diseases, breathing get worse, they can't breathe, and they end up in the hospital. Historically, diagnosis has been costly and inaccessible. The gold standard for over 100 years is to measure your lung capacity through a test called a spirometer, where you blow into a tube. But it's been locked inside the clinic because it's difficult to perform tests that is effort-based. The current standard of care for respiratory exacerbation is actually a clinical evaluation. Despite all medical advances in technology, lung health remains far behind. So today's alert system is the patient having to recognize they're getting worse. They then have to navigate the health system to get an evaluation. This is the reason so many of these lung disease patients end up in the hospital unnecessarily. So COPD care pathways, like the one created by our partner, the Allegheny Health Network, and others, have successfully prevented over 50% of these visits. But they are done by staffing nurses to triage patients by placing outbound phone calls to evaluate their health. We know how to prevent these hospitalizations if we can intervene in time. The triggers are known, the treatments are known. The problem is identifying the patient in a timely manner. With as little as 24 hours notice before a prospective hospital visit, these treatments can be effective and keep them from that hospital visit from occurring. So the challenge is providers can't staff these calling banks. And even if they could afford to do it, they couldn't staff them at scale efficiently. Imagine having to place hundreds or thousands of these calls per day and then take the time to do an evaluation. So through one simple voice test by speaking into our app, a patient can do this test anywhere or anytime. And for the first time, it'll allow for the mass screening of lung diseases and remote monitoring to detect respiratory exacerbations. We are modernizing respiratory care, taking tests and evaluations that have been done the same way for 100 years and doing the same thing that in-home glucose monitoring will do for diabetes, kids done for diabetes care. With one test, we measure your lung volumes like spirometry, and we detect symptom worsening like a clinical evaluation. So we're offering a complete lung health solution with objective measures, which will allow patients and providers to take control of their care, alert patients and providers to early significant changes in their lung function, and provide them the time for early interventions to prevent the hospitalizations. So we work closely with AHN for 2+ years through IRB-approved studies, where we validated that we can provide these clinically accurate measurements, do it in real-world settings across different mobile devices. And we're easy to deploy through our app or via APIs. We're the only company that provides all the gold standard measurements in one test. We're easy for patients to use and easy for customers to deploy. And we're orders of magnitude cheaper versus any of the hardware competition. So total lung disease spend in the United States is over $150 billion. And there's a $3 billion plus market alone just for remote monitoring of COPD. And this doesn't include future opportunities for screening and diagnosis, clinical trial support, and public data health impact information. And further opportunities will increase as we expand into other lung diseases. Our model is based on a per member per month revenue stream, and that's where we're at. So our team, my co-founder and CTO is not here today, Satya Benetti. She's a leader in the field of machine emotional intelligence. It was a senior researcher at the Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. We believe we have the best AI audio engineering team in the world. They're all graduates from the CMU School of Computer Science. And I'm an experienced entrepreneur who's taken a company from founding through a successful exit. We have been really fortunate to collaborate with the entire pulmonology staff at AHN to understand the nuances of lung disease, diagnostics, and care delivery. We have collaborated closely with the PI in all of our studies, Dr. Anil Singh, who led the creation of their COPD care pathway. And these are not just names on a slide. We've had standing calls for 2 years every week to review patient data and get feedback on how to optimize their solution. We've raised the pre-seed round from these leading investors, and we're also awarded a phase NSF award. We're raising $2 million to achieve the following milestones to demonstrate the economic and clinical value of our solution, which is to launch paid pilots and our direct-to-consumer app, continue to validate our solution by additional data collection, and to propose a regulatory approach to the FDA. Thank you for your time, and thank you for bearing with me.
Thank you, Raj. I just wanted to take another quick minute to thank all the entrepreneurs who have shared their experiences and their visions with us. These presentations from both our current and past cohorts show how visionary the entrepreneurs of our region really are. If you're a potential customer, investor, or strategic advisor, please reach out to the companies directly at the contact information listed here. They look forward to hearing from you. Thank you all for watching us either in person or online. We really appreciate your time, and your support is necessary to continue to grow Pittsburgh as an entrepreneurial powerhouse in the country. So with that being said, we appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.